trying. Trying is the word.
Good morning. I just wanted to say we are live on YouTube, just so
Oh,
everyone
yeah.
knows. Yeah.
Oh, are we now? It's kind of dark.
But will that be out there in the universe forever?
Not necessarily. I can delete it.
Yeah.
We have not discussed that, but I will probably delete it after we do the minutes, or maybe I can delete it after today's meeting, really, because we're going to record it.
Mhm.
Good morning. I just wanted to say we are live on YouTube, just so everyone knows.
Oh, is that a repeat?
It was a
Or did
repeat.
you just say it again? Okay.
It repeated because there's a delay on YouTube.
Oh, okay. All righty. Well, looks like Jerry's trying to get on.
If you all would like the live stream link to share with anyone, I posted it in the chat. I'm sending it to my kids. I thought that would be fun for them since they're at home.
Uh-huh. Everybody's at home.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be.
Hi, Brandon.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Good morning. How's everybody? Debbie, Tim?
Everybody's doing
Aaron?
good. How you doing?
I'm great. I don't see
Jerry.
my,
I
don't-
don't see you yet.
okay,
Oh,
there.
There you go. Mr.
Good morning.
Cowherd.
Hey.
He's a judge.
Say that again.
So you look like you're a judge. You know, sitting
In
in
that
chambers.
nice office.
Look like you're in your chambers.
Yeah, this is my man cave.
Well.
Hello. Yes. Okay, I'm going to send it to you right now.
Supposed to be 7 of us.
Good.
Adam's trying to get on.
Okay, let's see. I am forwarding it to you.
Oh, there he is. Good
Oh,
morning.
girl.
Morning, Adam.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Cynthia,
Hi.
Okay, I just sent it to you, Jennifer.
Morning, Cynthia.
Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
So you go to the Zoom, you see the Zoom link on it?
hey, Adam.
Hey,
Oh. Okay, you said that's Jennifer.
Taylor.
Is that all one word? All right, I'm going to send it to you now. You're welcome.
Hi, Debbie.
Good morning.
Okay, guys,
This
is
is pretty
there,
cool.
is there a, yeah, I see it. Never mind. I'm just sure my 4-year-old great niece is going to come in anytime. So you guys just welcome her to the meeting.
she can vote.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's if you want to watch it on YouTube.
We're live.
I'm really disappointed you don't have a suit on this morning. I mean, just saying. Did you hear me?
I'm impressed nobody has pajamas on.
Well, I know working from home has its advantages, doesn't it?
It does.
Except when we
There's
have
a
to be on
hilarious
video.
order. A
Yeah.
Miami trial judge put out this order telling lawyers that they still have to wear shirts for court appearances, even if it's on Zoom.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You would not think that would
Hi,
be
Jennifer.
necessary.
Good morning.
Oh,
Good morning.
look at that. There she is. Ooh,
Jennifer
there
Jones
she
from
Here,
HUD is
screen.
going-
What's
I'm
that?
sorry. Jennifer Jones from HUD is also joining us this morning. So that's who you'll see, Jennifer, there.
Good morning,
Okay.
Jennifer.
Morning, Jennifer.
Morning, Jennifer.
morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Louis.
Hey, Louis.
Anyways,
Good morning.
Hi,
Hey,
Kim.
Barnetta.
I went to Walton's.
Yeah.
So I have my laptop in front of me with the camera. I have a screen over here and a screen here. This screen is big and I can get all the faces in bigger picture, but it looks like I'm looking, yeah.
At least you got them all at one time. So I have to stroll to get mine.
Oh, is that what we have to do?
No,
No,
it's
Oh,
upper
on the
right.
right side is an error, but she's got a big screen and all. She probably has hers all on one screen.
If you're on a
No,
PC, it has a, you should have something that'll tell you gallery view, and you can see everybody at one time.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Oh, I see.
The new Brady
see,
Bunch.
I get it.
The
All right
Brady
again.
Bunch.
This is good.
I'm a middle child, so I don't want to
Hi,
be.
Erin.
Wasn't it Jennifer? Who was the middle child on the Brady Bunch? Wasn't that Jenny?
Jan.
Oh,
Jan.
Jan. Yeah, I cannot be Jan in this Brady Bunch. Okay.
Okay. All righty.
There is, and if she's having any problems, I'm just getting ready to reach out to the chair to make sure she's not having any problems. Okay.
Okay.
Good morning, Marianne.
Good morning. Hi, Jennifer Jones.
Hi, Marianne.
Hey,
Hello, Mar-
everybody.
Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
Does anybody
Cheryl will be
else
joining
always
us
wonder
shortly.
where to look? Where to look? Where to look?
Well, my camera's here, but I have an old TV as a monitor here, so it looks like I'm looking up. So when I look at everybody.
Yeah, a nice frame. Somebody trying to get in? It's Ben.
Good morning, Jennifer.
Can she hear us?
I
I don't think she
guess the
can.
squares get smaller as everybody gets here.
Um, All right. Looks like we can see your name. You might have to click to start the video.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
This is Jennifer, the monitor. I don't know what's, hey, I need my grandson here.
Hey,
How
Jennifer.
y'all doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. I must say, I'm the first monitor that actually I'm going to meet all the board members, because I actually can put names to faces on the list of the board members, the commissioners. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you do not
Hi.
have a quorum yet, right?
Hello.
Oh, okay.
We have a
Well,
quorum.
That's good.
You have a quorum? Okay. Good
Hey,
deal.
Kelly.
Yes, we
Hi,
do.
Kelly. Okay, he's joined us. Okay.
Oh, Kelly's got his voice. Yeah, he's.
Sorry.
Cynthia, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Brandon, do you need to give us any special instructions before we start?
Any side talk, you can use the chat and you can actually message people directly. We're streaming live on YouTube, and we'll just try to take our time and go slow so that everyone gets heard. I guess that's it.
Okay. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Do we have a confirmation of the public notice being issued?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good deal. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do we have public participation?
This morning, we have our HUD liaison, Jennifer Jones,
Okay.
that would like to speak with the commission board.
Okay. Welcome, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
You may begin.
Okay, hi, I'm Jennifer Jones. I'm the HUD monitor. I'm an equal opportunity specialist with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And so basically, I wanted to explain because we haven't. I came on site 2 years ago, and I will not be coming on site this year because the Kentucky Commission, with like all the other FAPs, they only get monitored or on-site monitored every 2 years. So I would actually like to explain you all's role in the FAP program, which is the Fair Housing Assistance Program. You all are a substantial equivalent organization. So what that means is, even without our law, you all investigate discrimination. You all have a law that is equal to the federal government's law. So therefore, the federal government, particularly HUD, said, hey, we want you all to investigate our cases, because we couldn't possibly investigate all the cases that come in if we didn't have our facts. So we definitely need your partnership. With that being said, for the last 4 years, the Kentucky Commission has led the whole country. That's all 10 regions with cause cases. That's not a bad thing. That's what you're supposed to be doing, finding discrimination. And that's, that's an equal. In the last 3 years, you all have turned your case processing time, you have lowered it threefold. So there was a time when I came in on 16, you had a high case processing. You're supposed to process a case within 100 days. You all now are at 122, which is outstanding for an organization your size. As your investigators, if they find calls or no calls or conciliations, it is up to the parties involved, particularly in conciliation. If they agree, then, and they agree to it and they sign the conciliation agreement, then that is fine, because that's what they decided to do. We do not have to agree with it. If we feel that it's so egregious, which very seldom does that happen, then you can raise issue with me, the monitor, and then I would kick it up to the enforcement side, and they would review the whole investigation to see if there's any reason for us to get involved. But 99.9% of the times, what the investigators and all our FAPs, what their decision, the decision that is rendered in the investigation sticks, as long as all parties agree. So I want to make sure that we understand that. Another point is, HUD gives the FAP program training funds. These training funds are for training, to include you all, the commissioners. The training funds can be used to train. It used to be that HUD gave a robust amount of money to the FAPs. They do not do that anymore. They base it on all your full-time FTEs. So I think maybe you all may have gotten 12,500 last year, and you'll probably get that amount. And basically that money will be used when we hold our FAP conference, which is mandatory. If headquarters or if Region 4 holds a FAP conference, it's mandatory that at least your intake person, at least an investigator, and your enforcement chief come, because that's where that's where the new information is going to be given out. I would like to say that I pulled up your open case report. Your average case processing is 122. You have an average of 20 cases. For your population, you're supposed to close 40 cases per year. That's the minimum amount. You all will reach that this year. And in spite of everything, and you all have had a lot of turnover, the enforcement branch is able to rise, and they continue to do well. You're one of the few FAP agencies I know in Region 4, and I know within the country. Every year you get supplemental payment because you do file your cause cases. You do hold administrative hearings. And so that's, to me, how I look at a successful organization. How much supplemental payments do you all receive? You all cause more cases and take them to court than HUD. I mean, HUD I think HUD this year has, you know, with all all through Region 4, which is, you know, 7 states, we've caused 3 cases and they're still in legal. We have cases in legal who's they've been there, you know, older than I am, but that's just how the federal government works. But again, you all, that's how I want you all, when the commission looks at the PAR, that's the performance assessment, look at the supplemental payments. That's an indicator of how well your enforcement staff is doing. It's not, okay, if you cause a case, that's fine. But where the complainant is getting justice is when you take that case to court and you know, they're getting some kind of remedy. It may not be the remedy they want, but the respondent is put on notice that, hey, we're an organization that will take you to court and we will try to seek all remedies for our clients. So are there any questions to me, you know, about your organization or about the FAP program?
Do we have any questions? Anyone?
With all that said, what are you asking for us to do for you?
Okay, first of all, I'm not sure how much, I think support your enforcement branch. And I mean that to say that your enforcement team, first of all, your enforcement team is knowledgeable. And I know that, you know, the issues in legal, but the tale of the tape of a good organization is with all this transitioning, they're still able to do their job, cause cases, and take them to court. So just full transparency and support so that they can continue to do their job. Because believe it or not, okay, you know, you look at Kentucky and I look at Georgia. Georgia must be the best state in the world because we have no discrimination, because we never cause a case. We never do anything you all do. And, you know, now that FAP has been defunded because they did not do their job. So they're trying to get back into the program. And I just feel that had they had the type of guidance, maybe they wouldn't have ended up out the program. We need our FAPs because we can't do this. And I'm talking about the HUD investigators enforcement team. They can't possibly do all that they do if they didn't have their FAPs.
Do you have a case with us or something?
Pardon me?
Do you have a case with us? Do you have a case with us? Do you have something that, you know, that you want to overturn, or do you have a case?
No, I'm the monitor. No, my role, I don't have any case. I am the monitor. I am the one that when they the investigator does their investigation, they have to send it to the commission for the commission to, you know, to approve. Once that case is approved, it comes to me. I review the case on this basis. It's called the criteria for case processing. I make sure that the investigation was done in the correct manner, and then we pay you all for doing our investigation. So, you know, so once the investigation is finished and I say, okay, the investigation meets the criteria for case processing, at the end of, I think it's June 30th, June 30th is the end of the case processing. And then August, we submit the payment. So we tally up everything that you all have done, the enforcement team, and we pay them, you know, a certain amount for cause cases, no cause cases, conciliations. And then if you take a case to court, you get supplemental payment.
Jennifer, do you mind repeating? You said that our average case process is around 122. But in 2016, you said, what was that number in 2016?
Oh, wow. It was 300. Because remember, at that time, you only had one investigator. That's when I think your investigator, the enforcement person left. The only investigator you had at that time was Leandria Goatley. You had she had an average, I think your caseload was 60 cases, one investigator, and even though there was the case, case processing was that wasn't a good number to be at. She did a phenomenal job. Then you all plussed up and you got two, I think you transitioned investigator from the housing, and then you hired one. And since then you've been bringing it down. Again, what's phenomenal about this enforcement team is each year they at least cause at least 10 cases. We don't even do that at HUD, okay? We just don't. I don't, like I said, I don't think there's any discrimination in Georgia because we do not cause cases in that. We just don't.
Okay, thank you.
Having any questions from the other commissioners? Ms. Jones, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. I can say I know what my commissioners look like.
And we know what you look like.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.
Hold on.
We ready to move on?
Yeah, she's still there.
She's still connected, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. But she is still connected.
yes, she is.
Ms. Jones?
Yeah, she shouldn't be.
Ms. Jones?
Brandon's saying that there is a delay. There is a slight delay. So you might see a slight delay before she actually
disappears. Okay. 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 Next on the agenda, we need to approve the minutes of the February meeting. So hopefully everyone received their minutes.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
A second.
Hey, I've got something, Alma.
Okay.
On so are you doing what was in our March folder that we got? The minutes for February?
This is for February meeting.
Yeah, so page 5 of the commission meeting minutes. The last paragraph on page 5, I don't know if you guys have got access to it or not, but.
I might. Nah, this is.
You said page 5, what paragraph?
The last paragraph.
Okay.
It's like the second to last sentence. It says, Mr. Cummins stated, regardless of who the client is, if the legal arm states it is a no probable cause, it is a no probable cause. I think what I stated was, if the legal arm states that it's a no probable cause, isn't it a no probable cause ? And then I think that's when Miss Grace answered with the next sentence there.
It was actually a question from you, not a statement.
Right.
That correction. Do we have any other corrections for the February minutes? All right. Motion to accept them?
Motion to accept the meeting, from last meeting with the corrections.
Second? Need a second? Commissioner Smith, have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, no meeting minutes for March. We didn't meet in the month of March.
Right.
Okay. Now we have our executive director's report.
Okay, my report's very brief. I just wanted to let you all know that, first of all, the staff is abiding by the regulations and in accordance to COVID-19 protocols that were set forth by the governor. So at any time, we only have 25% or staff is working only 25% of their time here in the office. The other time they're at an alternate location, i.e. usually they're home. However, we are still receiving complaints. We're still processing investigations, and we are going forward as usual as much as possible. We have not seen any problems at this point with continuing on with our work. We are required to let the personnel cabinet know that if anytime we feel that it gets to a point that we can no longer do the work at our home station, or if the protocols change, because it did start out at 50%, then it went to 75%, there is a chance that it may go to 100%. And if it goes to 100%, we will make sure that everybody is able to do the work that they can at 100%. Where that falls a little short is that we do have some staff that do not have the ability to get on computers and may not have an iPhone. And so we'll have to work that out with COT to see what we can get. Right now, there's a shortage of extra or additional equipment, i.e. laptops and that type of thing. But if that point comes and if we feel like we can't do 100% of our work at in the office, then we will be contacting the personnel cabinet to let them know.
Ms. Fox, approximately how many employees do you think that would fall within that category of not having the iPhone or laptop to be able to do their work from home?
It's right now, we haven't had a lot of problems. I'd say maybe about 3 or 4, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also, I just wanted to give you an update on the staff attorney 2 position. For the staff attorney 2 position, all the applications have been reviewed, and 8 candidates have been selected for interview. And I am working now to reach out to those 8 individuals to ask if they have the ability to participate in an interview in this manner through Zoom. And if at any time any of those 8 individuals cannot participate in a Zoom interview, then we'll look at other ways to interview that person, so that we're still staying within the COVID-19 protocols.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
And
Sounds
so
good.
hopefully this time next month, we'll be able to tell you something about filling that position. And then Aaron will give you an update on there's still the enforcement officer position is still vacant, and Aaron will give you an update on that with her report.
Hey, Cynthia, I'm sorry, I have a question. Going back to personnel working from home or an alternate location, those personnel that don't have laptops, do they have powers that could be taken home, or is that not possible? Or is it related to not having internet service and all the rest?
It could be, but what's happening mostly now, we're kind of coming in almost like every other day or every 2 days, even though we're may not be staying 7.5 hours here. You know, you have issues with being able to mail things, being able to copy things, print things and that type of thing that, you know, they may not be able to do at home. The enforcement officers, many of them are taking their cases home and reviewing their cases at home. They're making phone calls from their personal phones or personal cell phones, blocking their number, you know, ahead of time whenever possible, and or scheduling interviews and then coming into the office and then, you know, when I say interviews, phone interviews, not in-person interviews. And so the biggest issue, we don't have an issue right now because anything that they need to do on the computer, if they don't have a computer at home, they can do the reading and the writing and all that stuff where they are. And then when they come in the next day, they can get on the computer and do whatever they need to do on the computers and use whatever they need at that time.
Thank you. It's a hardship. Excuse me, I recognize it's a hardship. It's stressful to do all that. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you share with the Board of Commissioners, which I think it's all straightened out now, but the little bit of a scare that we had yesterday morning as it relates to the elevators?
Okay, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
When we came in,
it's okay.
When we came in yesterday morning, a little bit before 7 o'clock, we weren't able to get on the floor. The elevators were down. So I wasn't really happy, and the assistant manager of the building came in and he made a contact. The elevator repair people came in. I guess it was probably about 8 o'clock, maybe between 8 and 8:15. There were 3 staff already here. 1 staff had already walked up to the 14th floor. There were 3 of us still on the first floor waiting to come up. The elevator repair person took us up on the service elevator, but then very shortly after that, he had the elevator running. Larry who is the assistant manager of the Habron building, contacted me later yesterday and told me that they have another elevator ready to go, but it has to be inspected first. And so he said that the inspection should happen at the end of the week or Monday, and that the second elevator would be available starting next week. And so now we will have 2 elevators instead of the 1.
Well. Well.
And the good news, as a result of COVID-19, we have a plan this time in place that we didn't have before. So
good.
While we were freaking, it's not as bad as it was previously.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna also add on that, just thank the staff for especially using their own equipment, their own cell phones and things like that at home, just doing everything they can to get it done. And the important thing is for everyone to be safe and use your own judgment on that. So
yes,
we are practicing distancing. Altita and I are kind of close right now, but that's because she's going to be giving her report shortly. But while we're in the office, we are people are spraying down, wiping down things, and we are practicing distancing. So we are being
yes.
Okay, so you had stated that Aaron was going to give an update
on the enforcement officer 1 vacant position.
Okay.
I have reviewed all the applications and selected 10 applicants, and I will be sending out letters as soon as we figure out how to do the Zoom interviews. I'm going to be doing the Zoom interviews as well if we can.
What's the total?
We got 92 applicants, and I've selected 10 to interview.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Fox, were you finished with your report?
Yes, unless you all have any questions for me.
Questions for Ms.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Budget and personnel. Mr. Ross? You're on.
Brandon.
All right, you have my report before you, and I'll answer any questions about that before we go on to any other action items that we might discuss. I've got a couple things. Yes,
Yeah.
we have the report.
Can you hear me? This is Commissioner Cummins.
Yes.
When I was looking at the year-to-date for last year versus this year, and I didn't mark my book, so I'm looking for it right now. We're about $100,000 over. Is that correct?
That is, yes, that is correct.
Is there, in your opinion, is there one thing that's driving that, or is it? Because I looked at it and I saw a couple of things, but maybe it was warranted. The biggest thing that kind of stuck out was the travel in state was about $10,000 higher than last year.
Yeah, it dropped down. Yeah, it's about $8,600 for the month of April. And I'll have to look at 2009. I'm not sure if they included the parking. I have actually stopped including the parking under travel. So that will change things significantly. But I can break down the travel in more detail. What is the commissioner's travel? What is the staff's travel? What are the per diems for next month's meeting, if you'd like? And we can take a detailed look at that.
Is if you took a closer look at it, what you thought maybe was driving that higher this year.
Okay.
You don't have to answer that right now, but if you get a chance to look at it maybe for next meeting.
I will certainly do that.
May I ask a question? Why would parking be listed under travel?
I guess that was the way Art decided to do it, because.
Yes, it was done in his terms. It was done because it was part of transportation. The staff transportation included parking, and so that was included. That's just how he put it in that category.
Right. But
stating parking as it relates to at the Hebron building daily?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
It was $1,350 a month, and now it's down to $1,200 a month due to us losing a couple employees. So.
Hey, Brandon, in fairness too, I shouldn't say 100,000. I found my page here now. So it's about 45,000 more, but just your thoughts maybe later on what you think's driving that.
I can tell you that some of it was the payout when Mr. Johnson left. That was about 30-something thousand.
Okay.
For his leave time and his sick leave that we've had to pay into retirement. So that's a significant portion of it.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions regarding the expenditures? In your books from our report for April, I assume you saw the budget numbers for the budget that was passed.
Right.
The legislature only passed a one-year budget this time due to the uncertainty for the revenue projections due to the expected economic slowdown from the coronavirus. I've never heard of them only passing a one-year budget, but I think that was probably a wise move. Our budget was decreased by $79,000, and that deficiency is going to be compounded by the fact that retirement contributions are going to be increasing. So I think we still have plenty of money to cover rent and payroll, depending on which positions we fill and which positions we have for the whole year for fiscal year 2021. I'm not sure how much there's going to be left over from that. Fortunately, we do have a cushion for with the federal funds. So we're going to be fine. It just doesn't leave us a lot of room for anything extra.
So, Mr. Ross, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so with the field positions, maybe for our next meeting, if you could jot down what the anticipated salary will be for each position, and just so that we can kind of stay on top of that. And then if I'm hearing you right, if certain positions are filled, then there would be no 2% contingency available unless we utilize our federal funds.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean by 2%.
Like, so normally we have a safety net, kind of,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay, is that what you're saying? So unless we use if we fill all those positions, we no longer will have that safety net?
It's going to be close. It's going to be close.
Okay, when maybe next month, if you could tell us like 10% close, 20%,
Okay.
just kind of let us know so we're not hit in the red and didn't realize it.
Sure. And do you want the salaries with the benefits and everything? I'm assuming.
Yeah, because that's how
total
you.
Cost. Okay.
Yeah.
I will do it. And I've been thinking about that, with possible retirements, it's nothing certain, but I'll definitely, I can get us a worst case scenario. How about that? If every position was filled, that's what how I was thinking about doing it for the fiscal year 2021.
I think, and this is just my opinion, but with the General Assembly only doing the 1 year, it's a good opportunity for us to go back in front of them again and try to increase it for the next fiscal year. So, I mean, it leaves us an opportunity.
I agree. The opportunity is there.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Brandon, on the federal funds, it can only be used for certain things. Is that correct? And if so, will you remind me what that is?
Well, we try to use the federal funds for the programs which support the federal funds.
Whether it's HUD or EEOC?
Right, whether it's HUD or EEOC.
Is that like the things like that? Yes.
Now there are plenty of costs to which we can allocate those federal funds. So I mean, we can always use a significant portion of enforcement's payroll and legal's payroll that would take up all of our federal funds. I have not been charging anything to federal funds in the last 2 months, just because I really want to get a handle on how we should be allocating the costs. I want to talk to HUD and EEOC's finance person, and we've had a lot going on, so I haven't gotten to do that yet. But hopefully, in the spring, certainly before the summer, because we'll have to move some funds, we'll have to move some costs to federal funds before the end of the fiscal year on June 30th, which will probably be all payroll, just like it was last year.
So when you say from the earlier discussion, 2%, 20% or whatever, that doesn't include maybe using federal funds to pay payroll so that we don't run that close, right?
It does include that.
It does? Okay. All right.
Our federal funds as they're projected. So we are authorized to spend $245,000 in federal funds in fiscal year 20 and also in fiscal year 2021. Now, we actually have more cash in federal funds that we can get our spending authority increased. I actually requested a spending authority increase for this year just because I saw the deficit and I didn't know if we were going to have any more unexpected expenses with retirement payouts or other things possibly that were on the horizon.
Right.
But because we actually requested an increase last year of about $440,000 and we used $0 of that increase. So they denied the request of the $150,000 this year. But if at the end of the fiscal year we're running close, we can do emergency appropriation increase and it's no problem. We can add it. So the answer is not simple. sometimes we have more in cash than we actually have in spending authority. And that's where our cushion is. But we can always increase, request an increase in our spending authority and spend the extra cash that we have on hand in federal funds.
Yeah, so in other words, you feel like you got a path to get there if you need to.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Brandon, can you update us on any developments as it relates to exploring the options of relocation, whether within the Hebron building or externally? Did you ever hear from Real Properties?
No, I did go back and speak with them. Let me look at I think this was, I spoke with them prior to our March meeting. I don't have the March meeting narrative pulled up, which we didn't have. And they were going to process our request that I had submitted and evaluate it. And they were going to give us a list of options. First, they were going to give us a list of state-owned properties here in Louisville or properties for which they had a current lease. And then they were going to give an estimate for private office space. Haven't heard a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, these are strange times, and they are, I believe, also in the process of securing space for virus testing facilities, as well as the Real ID offices, which they're pushing to open throughout the state. I did expect to hear something from them before now, but I understand why we haven't. On the second point about relocating within the Hebron, I think the elevator situation yesterday, while, you know, of course it made our hearts drop, it was alarming. It was indicative. I spoke with actually the business manager from Oracle, and he said that going forward, they had retrofitted the elevators so that any downtime would be minimal. And I think we saw that yesterday. Was it an hour, Cynthia? We can't hear you, but she said yes. I could hear her from her office. She said yes, about an hour.
Yes, yes.
So
Sorry, I had to.
if they are good on their word and the second elevator is working in the near future, we could save somewhere around $27,000 a year by consolidating on the 14th floor for the near future. And that would get us all on one floor, and then we could go forward from there and see if that works for us. I'm still open to that possibility. So I was hoping to get something back from Real Properties before we made an actual decision, so that we can always compare our options, because it's always good to have options. But that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah.
Any questions related to relocation?
And I know the two major concerns were all being on one floor and the elevator situation. And I think if we could get those solved by moving to the 14th floor, that, you know, I don't think we're going to find a much better deal than the Hebron building, unfortunately.
That elevator situation is going to be ongoing, seems like. You know.
Well, yeah, I agree. It seems like it's going to be ongoing. However, if they have two working and their response time is like it was yesterday, I think it's definitely something that we could deal with. So we'll just have to wait.
When do we renew our contract with them?
You know, that's a good question. I think we've got, so we could probably get out of it, but I think we have 3 years left. However,
well, if it's so good to stay, maybe when the contract is up, you can renegotiate for a lower price because of the issues.
Yeah, we could. Actually, we can renegotiate. Real Properties said they could renegotiate before that if we want to move to one floor, and we actually have an offer on the table for a lower price from the Hayburn ownership. So we've just kind of been circling that, waiting to see what happens with the second elevator.
It would seem we could renegotiate now, considering the issues we've had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what
And,
does that do for the safety of the employees? Wasn't that a concern of ours? Didn't some employees have concern with being there, or am I behind a little bit? Has that got resolved?
There was a concern as it relates to parking, and our female staff, some had felt a little uncomfortable with where they were being required to park. I don't know if that's been addressed.
I think that was when they were parking across the street. That was before I got here. Cynthia, do you want to discuss that?
Yes, we were parking across the street. The staff had to walk across the street, and there are like 2 alleys that they had to pass, and people were congregating at the library there and in the alleys there. And so the change was made so that staff is parked right outside the door of the building in the lot attached to the Hayburn building. And that also is part of that increase that you see in the parking that we may have been paying before and what we're paying now.
Thank you.
And it's not a problem if we merge the staff who was on the 16th floor and are on the 14th floor into the 14th floor. Everyone is there. We have adequate room for the staff as well as conference room and what have you to meet the demands that we have been faced with.
This is Cynthia. You can't see me, but actually we do have enough space on the 14th floor to do that. We also have looked at office lower on a lower floor. That was several months ago. I don't know if that's still available. The only thing that we have to keep into consideration is the firewall that needs to remain between Altita, our mediation, and our enforcement and legal units. That doesn't mean that she can't be on that same floor. It's just not, she's not going to be in the same location as
Mary. Right.
She can definitely be on the same floor we were before we moved up here to the 16th and the 14th floor. She was on this, everybody was on the same floor. So that won't be an issue at all.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have a comment about parking. I think moving the parking so that our staff parks outside the building is money well spent. Your protection is definitely worth that. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad that move was made.
Very good point. Anyone else have questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ross.
So I did have a couple more things.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm still waiting on the RFP for the accounting services to be approved. I checked this morning and it is in the assistant director's work list. So I would hope that would be approved today. I was hoping it had been approved when I got on this morning, but it wasn't yet. Okay. And the final thing is, we had a couple questions and we reviewed the bylaws that were approved in 2012. And there are a couple things in the bylaws that I guess were unofficially changed. And we wanted to bring those up for discussion. And it was related to the commissioner per diems and travel. The first was, and I'm going to share this file with you all. I don't know if everyone has Word. I can send it in PDF also, in theory. Ah, there it is. And I'll paste this into chat also. So the bylaws state that, and you can see this in chat, On the day preceding or following commissioner-related activity, a commissioner's travel of more than 50 miles to or from their place of residence, they'll be entitled to the per diem, the $65 per day. So if you all were interested in actually enforcing that, you can just let me know. I don't know if you want to discuss it in closed session. And then give me a direction. Oh, it didn't send the file through. And it says
I
network.
see the wording on here though.
Okay, yeah. Well, I pasted it into the chat, so I can email you the files. So we've been requested some clarification on the travel day before the meeting for those more than 50 miles away from their place of residence, because that is a significant amount, especially for people like Mr. Robinson coming from far out from Louisa and Eastern Kentucky. And the second item was kind of a piggyback on the first. It says, even though if you look at the last sentence, commission-related activity, and we were curious as to what exactly a commission-related activity is. I know the chair has had meetings in Frankfurt, which she's had to go to, and of course, that's an official commission-related activity when she has to represent the commission before the Personnel Cabinet or before the General Assembly. But it's not as clear what commission-related activities might be if there are extended conference calls from home or video meetings. Possibly in this day and age, you could be called upon to attend video meetings on behalf of the commission from your home. So the second item would be to define commission-related activity. And then the third thing in the bylaws was related to meal reimbursement. The bylaws actually state that that it's the actual and necessary expenses of the commissioner shall be reimbursed based upon a credit card receipt. However, we haven't been doing that. I guess Art changed it several years ago, and we have been using the state guidelines, which are as follows. And you can, if anybody doesn't see those in the chat, just let me know, and I will directly email you the Word document, because it does not appear that it's uploading. So that might be something you all want to discuss either in the closed session or for next month's session. Like I said, this is something that was unofficially changed, but wasn't, is still written this way in the bylaws. So just for your
So
consideration.
when you say it was unofficially changed, but yet it's in the bylaws, so it was inserted as part of the bylaws, but never officially changed?
That's right. That's my understanding. Now, this happened before I came, so, but the most recent version we have of the bylaws were approved in 2012. I think they were in your commission books. Were they included in the book, Cynthia, or
Yes,
were
they were, and it may have been 2013.
Okay, 2013.
And I believe what happened, is it say 2013? I haven't.
It does, January of 2013. Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
it's 2013. And what he's saying is that there were things set forth in those bylaws, but after that, we could not find anything in writing or where anything was voted on. But we do know what happened was there was a point where commissioners were being given actual expenses, reimbursement for expenses, and they provided a receipt, and then it changed to match what the state employees get, which is what Brandon just showed, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But there was no changes made to the bylaws. for that. And that's what we mean by unofficial, because no one, so I can't really show if it was voted on or how it was agreed upon or anything, because the bylaws weren't amended or anything in that situation.
I would suggest that we review it. We may discuss it in closed session, but not address it until next month's meeting unless there's some objection.
No.
Okay, any other questions for me? I think that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Enforcement, you're up.
All right. I did want to make one note. The case index for you all will be voting on the March cases and the April cases. So I need to note a correction on the March case index in the withdrawal area. 9064-E is the first case that's listed as a withdrawal with settlement. That is a withdrawal. And then 9099/ET, Gamble versus Amazon, is a withdrawal, not a withdrawal with settlement. So I'm pretty sure, did we email the revised case index? And out of the March, okay. Of the March case, the March cases, we actually have, hold on, let me get my paper right. We have 33 cases that we are presenting to you for the March commission meeting. That's 3 conciliations, 1 dismissal without prejudice, 1 administrative closure, 18 MPCs, 4 withdrawals without settlement, and 6 withdrawals with settlement. Do you all have any questions on the March cases?
Erin, I have a couple questions, please. So on case number 9064, I'm glad you included that correction, but I just for my clarification, it says the complainant agreed to withdraw to pursue the matter in a state or federal court. And then on another page where it says request withdrawal, I wish to pursue the matter in, oh, wait a minute, state or federal court, but it was, why is it, this is just so that I understand, why is it withdrawal without settlements? Because there wasn't a settlement and he's pursuing another avenue?
Yes, this case, the second page of that CRC needs to be corrected. This should, the box that should be checked should just be a straight withdrawal. Looks like they are withdrawing their case to get a right to sue letter to pursue it in state or federal court. This came from mediation, so Altita can answer any questions you may have as far as, why they chose to withdraw it and go to state or federal court.
I don't think it matters why they made the choice,
Gotcha.
Honestly. But when I read through it, I'm like, okay, I'm confused. So, but they got a right to sue, and then this document that you provided gave that answer. So that was helpful. Let's see, I had another question. 909. Okay, so 9099, I had a question with that one as well, if I can find it. I think it's the same situation. So they withdrew with a right to sue. It looks like you actually corrected that one.
Yeah.
In the March book.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, all right, that's good. Let's see. So Mr. Stanley, let's see, there's 2 cases that have the same person. And I guess he just did two different complaints. So it's 8547E. So is that employment and one is something else? And then he has
they're both
8914.
They're both employment, and it looks like, let me pull it up. But sometimes what happens when you have a situation like this is they file one complaint And then another allegation comes up or comes out in the
Okay.
investigation, and it's within the statute of limitations. So we'll file another complaint. If it's
Okay.
outside of the statute of limitations, then we have to amend the complaint to include the new allegations.
Okay. It looks like they were, one day apart. So he must have been,
Yeah, I'm pulling them up right now. $89.14 and $85.47. Okay, so the 8547-E complaint that James Stanley filed, the first one was filed on March 10th, 2017. If you look on the complaint that's attached to the back of that CRC, you'll see a filed stamp, and in that file stamp, that's the date it was filed. If you go to 8914, that one was filed on November 27th, 2018. And it looks like it was that the first complaint, the 8547, had the racial remark in it, and the 8914 was due to a promotion.
Okay.
So
I think
different allegations.
Okay, I think it was my error because I saw the 3/20, but that looks like the closing date. 3/20/20, that was the closing date. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have one other question. It's on case 8815E, where the Hispanic employee of Honduran origin was having difficulty learning how to read a tape measure.
Mm-hmm.
What I wondered was the employee taught in Spanish how to use the tape measure? And then granted, she would still have to learn how to do it. But if she was, if her primary first language was Spanish, I wonder if she had been given, I think it was a female, if she had been given the instructions in Spanish, would she have understood it better, even though she's going to have to complete the actions in English? Does that make sense?
Yes, Addie's actually in the office today, so I can go grab her and I can have her come in. We can hold on, if y'all hold on 1 second, I can go grab her.
Yeah. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Is everyone able to hear okay?
Yes, I'm hearing okay.
Good.
Seeing okay, seeing everybody. Mm-hmm.
Good job, Brandon.
Let's wait until it's over before.
Hold the compliments.
Yeah. Hold your applause.
This may be the wave of how things are done because of this,
know.
even after everything happens.
Absolutely.
This may be the wave. Makes sense in a way, but you still need your face-to-face, but this supplements very well.
It sure makes dressing for work a lot easier.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna be lazy with that when I go back.
Okay. I just spoke with Addie, and she said that the complainant in that case speaks English well and does not have a language barrier and did not request to receive the training.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I did have one other, I'm sorry.
I said, you're welcome.
I did have one other question, and this is on 8879E.
Okay.
So there was a clerical oversight that do you remember that one? She was medically evaluated, cleared to return to work, but because of a clerical oversight, she remained on leave unchallenged until February 2018. Do you know if the complainant received short-term disability benefits while she was off?
I'm not sure about that. I can ask that's again, that's Addie's case. Would you like me to go ask her?
Yeah, I just wonder, I don't know that if it makes a difference or not, but I just wonder if she was working that entire time, if she was receiving benefits that entire time. And I don't know, maybe it's just does anybody else have a question about that? I don't know that it's necessary, but she was given the opportunity to come back to work once that oversight was recognized, and then didn't return to work. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a no probable cause, so it doesn't really matter. It's just a question in my mind that why didn't she want to go back to work? So
yeah,
inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, thank you, Erin. I think that's all I have.
Erin, I have a question as it relates to case number 9134E.
9134. Okay, that's the withdrawal with settlement.
Yes, and I guess this is just sort of to educate me a little bit here. So for this complaint to reach the point that it had at that time, had you all determined that there was a basis for the complaint? And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, the basis for the complaint is determined in the intake stage. They have to have a basis for the complaint to be filed in intake. This case was actually settled in mediation. This was a withdrawal with settlement. So it went to mediation and it had a successful mediation. Our successful mediations are closed out as withdrawal with settlements.
So when the mediation is involved and then there is a settlement, do we monitor the employer or the landlord beyond that point to make certain that they understand, or do they just reach a settlement agreement with the complainant and it's the end of story?
A withdrawal with settlement is a private settlement between the complainant and the respondent. The commission
We're
is
not involved at that point at all. So she withdraws and then they work it out between themselves.
Yes. And as far as mediation goes, mediations are confidential. So that's why we close those as a withdrawal with settlement, because those terms are confidential.
Okay.
Mediation, we don't do housing. We only do employment.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Public accommodation.
Right.
Erin, do we want to talk about the conciliation case between Lexington Fair Housing Council and Shane Corporation, or do that as part of committee update later?
It doesn't matter to me.
Hey guys, just so you all know, in February when we had our commission meeting, there was a discussion about a settlement on a conciliation case where Lexington Fair Housing Council had received a check already for $500 on the conciliation before it ever came before the board for approval. And at that time, we questioned whether that was the right procedure and asked that that case be pulled. And so we had a meeting this week to talk about the standard operating procedures and what exactly happened on that. I was satisfied from an SOP perspective that we have documentation on exactly how that should be handled. I do think that we need to go back and be more specific in some cases that check is held on to by the commission before it's ever sent to the complainant until the approval is done by the board. But one of the follow-ups we had from the meeting this week was we asked Cynthia to follow up with Art Crosby down at Lexington Fair Housing Council about how that check was received, because everything in the SOP showed that we should have that check and hold on to it until the approval. And basically, I got an email from Cynthia, and Cynthia, you can chime in if you want, but it appears that in what he sent us is that he had a discussion with Linda Horseman, and she asked them to retain possession of the check. So I guess the respondent sent the check to Art Cosby directly, and she asked him to retain possession of the check and then to wait for the commission to approve the check before it was attempted to be cashed. And that's basically what he did. When we pulled the case in February, he held on the check, and he says he still to this date hasn't done anything with that check at this point. Is that about right, Cynthia? Would you agree with that?
That is correct.
So that's kind of the follow-up to that. I'm good with where it's at right now. I just would like to see us get a little bit better control on those checks coming to the commission. We hold on to those checks until approval occurs, and then follow the process on how it gets mailed out. I don't know if you guys got any comments on that, but.
I have a question for clarification. So are you stating that the check did initially arrive at the commission office and then Ms. Horseman?
No.
Well, the check went directly from the respondent to Art Cosby.
Did it have come directly to the commission?
It did not come to the commission.
No, my question is, should it have?
Yeah, that's the way it should work. And the reason being is because my thought process based on reading the SOPs is that I think that's the best practice, because if you have advocacy groups out there that are working directly with the respondent without us in the middle, kind of, I don't want to use the term brokering, but making sure that that comes to us, we do the approval's done and it goes out, then great. If it comes to us and we don't approve, and that's already taken place, then it kind of puts us in a bad position from an accountability standpoint, I think.
No. Normally, Lexington Fair Housing Councils are fit, and so they have to send their cases here because we do litigations and they don't. And normally we would settle their cases, we would litigate their cases, but because of some issues we've had in the last few years, Art had to settle he settled them himself. So.
You're talking about the length of time it was taking us to settle them, Latina?
Yeah, some of them are 5 years old, some are 6 years old.
Yeah. So, and regardless, I think that still that communication should be there with those guys. If we want something different from an SOP perspective, that needs to be presented to the board and approved. But at this point right now, what I've stated is what I think we should be doing with the check being retained here until we approve.
I was just saying that normally you said we don't usually deal with the respondent directly, they do, but that's not the normal practice. We would deal with the respondent.
Right. That makes sense to everybody?
Yep.
It sounds like it was a one-time occasion, and it sounds like it was based upon the request of the staff person. Is that correct?
I will say in my experience here, I've seen most of the checks come to the commission and then they go upstairs. There might have been like one or two extenuating circumstances where the payout was going to be like through a payroll check and that kind of deal or something like that. But most of the time, I've seen the checks come here and go to the safe until after they're voted on at the commission meeting.
Thank you.
So I'm good with the conciliation for that, Aaron, and the rest is in your report.
Do we have any more questions on the March cases? Because then we'll go to the April. We still have April 2 to go over.
Any more questions on March?
Nope.
Okay, and then for April, we have 9 cases and it's 8 NPCs and 1 withdrawal with settlement. Do you all have any questions on any of the April commission cases?
No.
Nope.
Any questions on my report?
Nope.
All right,
You're
I'm
doing
good to go.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
You're doing excellent
Thank you.
job.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion to accept her report.
I motion to accept her report. Ms. Aaron?
Second?
Second.
Second.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Could we have a motion? You don't really have to accept Aaron's report. You need to accept the cases. The motion.
All right, I motion to accept the case.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. Next up is education and outreach.
First point of education is how to unmute. So we're there. Good morning, and you have our report in the commission book. Do you have any questions for me? That works. Thank you.
Yep, it works fast. Thank you.
Good job.
Yep.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from legal.
You have my reports of March and April if you have any questions.
The question is not necessarily about the report, but how are things going in legal? I know your staff very low point. Are you being able to sort of keep things going?
Yeah, I'm doing the best I can. I have a couple, one case needs to be appealed that I'm working on, and I've been trying to settle some of the other ones. I close them that they recommended be closed. And, you know, some of the cases been on the docket so long to the court is making motions to dismiss our cases. But one particular case was dismissed because of the 100-day rule. And so that's the one I'm appealing. But one of the cases that the court is dismissing, the respondents dead, we think. So we just gonna let the court dismiss that one. They've already dismissed another one that we were not able to appeal because they simply failed to do the discovery.
What was the basis of that dismissal?
We failed to do the discovery and because of the 100-day rule.
Okay.
I could have appealed the 100-day, but not the discovery.
Right.
Altita, the web case that I did a hearing on, Webb versus Silver Spoon. I thought I saw in one of the reports a couple months back that Linda had put in there that something about, and I won't say it right, and I don't remember exactly the wording, but something about it still needed to be docketed within that particular court in that county or something like that. Does that make any sense? For some reason, I was thinking it was being held up, and so I wanted to make sure that our judgment in that hearing was moving forward. I probably, if I had a little bit more time, I probably could go back and find it, but.
Oh, is that? Now we have one that you had ruled on at a hearing that needs to be a judgment filed in Franklin Circuit Court, but I don't think that's it. But we can't find that respondent either.
Yeah, I think that is the one. That's the Webb versus Tuttle House.
No, it's another restaurant. And
oh, that's Anybody's Diner. That sound familiar?
Yeah, that was it.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I'm just wanting to
can't find the respondent. We need an address in order to file a judgment. I can't find her. I've called the numbers that's in the book. I called the complainant to ask if she knows since she live in the community, but she didn't know either. Yeah. So we can't file a judgment without a proper address.
Right.
she's disappeared. And anybody that's down there, I don't think is there anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what the proper process is after that and how you find that particular person.
Well, I asked the complainant to find out in the community if she could, where she may be, and she is working on that. She hasn't called me back yet.
The last time that you guys were able to communicate with her?
I talked to her last week, week before last, and I
She
called
was recently disappeared, basically.
the complainant. I asked the complainant if she could try to find out in the community where the lady may be. And then I called it was 2 or 3 numbers in the file for the respondent. I called those, and
Chair, are you asking when was the last time they had contact with the respondent?
Yes, the person that they're no longer able to reach.
when she was at the hearing, my understanding
was
she said she was gonna disappear.
She said she was going to disappear?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So
I have a quick question for you. So with modern technology, does our bylaws prevent us from going on Facebook or Twitter, any of those apps to find individuals? And I know right now we're so short-staffed, so I'm not saying that for today. I'm just asking, are we limited on that? Does anyone know?
You can look on Facebook, but I did try to find it on the internet. I didn't go on Facebook, and I wasn't able to find her.
But again, are we limited by bylaws to do any of that stuff, or can we use any means necessary to find them?
And Aaron can verify this, but I do believe that the enforcement officers, when they're seeking to find complainants or respondents, will use whatever avenue that's available to them, such as Facebook, LinkedIn, all those avenues. And so we have been using those to try to find out or locate individuals. And that includes respondents and complainants. The Secretary of State, if it's a business, they may have have a change, DBAs. So the enforcement officers do use it.
If possible, I would like to see us use all means necessary to try to find them, if possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I did look at some, but I didn't look at Facebook. But like I say, it's in Frankfurt, so it's not that huge. And the lady said that she knew somebody that knew the lady and she was going to contact her.
So can you state again, Ms. Williams, so what options will you have available now with her disappearing and this issue hasn't been resolved?
Well, you can't file a judgment in the circuit court without having a proper address for the party that you filing against, and we don't have an address. So I'm just trying to find her address in order to file the action in the circuit court to get a judgment that we could attach her restaurant or her home or whatever. But at this time, we don't have anything.
Yeah, I understand that, but I guess what I'm wondering, like, if you did obtain that information or just ran across the 3 or 4 months down the road or 6 months down the road, would the statute of limitations be exhausted then where you would be able to deal with it? Or are you at that point now, and if you can't find her?
It wouldn't be a statute of limitation issue. We already ruled on the case. And we
So
just,
whenever she surfaces, then you
yes,
could.
we can file that judgment.
Okay.
Hey, Adam, have you guys had to do anything like that in any of the legal case you've had, and what extent did you have to go to resolve that?
So yeah, it's an issue we run into all the time. I typically use private investigators to find people.
Yeah.
If the private investigator can't find the defendant, the process that exists in the rules is you can have what's called a warning order attorney appointed to respond on behalf of the defendant. It's a cumbersome process. You would only do it if you felt like you had a recoverable judgment. But if we know the lady's got a restaurant that she owns, it might be worth going through that cumbersome process. If we don't, I mean, it's just a discretionary judgment whether it's worth going through that.
Yeah, she's closed her restaurant. So.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go through having a warning order attorney appointed unless I really felt certain I could get something.
Did you get an investigator to find her?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the cost, I usually don't end up paying those investigators too much. Again, unless it's a major case, then we'll go to the end of the earth to find somebody. But these defendants disappear intentionally all the time.
Yeah, the impression I don't want to give the state, and I think this is just me conjecture on my part, is that we're slow in getting the cases litigated. Not any fault of anybody in particular on this call, but we're slow in getting these cases to the point where we have hearings or litigation that resolves them. And so now we're starting to do hearings, and we got the avoidance of the responsible party from living up to the judgment. And so at some point we've got to make it known that, hey, we mean business. When these complaints come across the desk and we take them to hearings or litigation, that we're going to get the things resolved. I understand where we're at, being short-staffed and all that, but at some point too, we've got to draw the line and say, hey, we're going to make this happen one way or the other. So here's, Altita, just a couple things. Number one is, after we did that hearing, I received in the mail from Sandy and those guys some follow-up information that the respondents sent to, I guess, maybe help their case. I got a motion to strike from Linda on that information because she had no way to, cross-examine the people that provided all the information, all that, and I signed that. My thought is that that particular person probably sent to Sandy and them all this information from some address, not the diner's address. So if you would follow up with Sandy and see if she has any recollection of another address being used from the person's personal residence. And then if it's okay with the rest of the group, I would recommend that, hey, we find an investigator, if we can find one that's not too expensive, to track the person down and serve I guess, the judgment on them. Is everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that feasible, Ms.
Yep.
Lee?
Sure am.
I would encourage us to be mindful of the budget that we already talked about, how much would this investigator cost. I think that's important to note if we're going to start going down that avenue, because you just want to do it for one person. You want to continue to do it if that's the case.
Yeah, I would just recommend whatever that cost is that Cynthia works that through the chair, and that if she gives the approval, I'm good with that.
I think it's a budgetary issue as well.
I don't.
So we would probably need to.
Whatever you want to do, Alma, it's your call. I don't think we're talking thousands of dollars, but I could be wrong.
Commissioner Fitzgerald, what do you think we're looking at?
My experience in just about any area in the state is I can find somebody for $300 to $500. And if I can't find them for that much, they're going to be really hard to find. And, for $500, you can find out whether you're going to find somebody.
Okay.
So maybe we can agree not to exceed $500, not to exceed that amount. Do y'all think
Yeah,
that's?
I was thinking it would be a lot more money. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I don't know that I have a limit. I trust between Cynthia and the chair that they can make that decision. So whatever you guys want to do, or whatever you're comfortable with, Alma.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Do we have anything else as it relates to legal? Ms. Williams, have anything else to report?
Do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything else.
Have any questions
Nope.
regarding her report? Commissioner Ellis?
I just have one more question, and that's for not for her. So it may just be toward the end.
Okay. We need to accept her report, right?
No, you don't have to vote on her report.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Ellis, you said you wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Ross, when you include the salaries of the individuals that we are anticipate hiring, would you also include any projected retirements that we may foresee in 2020 as well?
I can do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else before we move on? Okay, under new business, we've already briefly discussed the bylaw issue, but we're going to table that. But in the meantime, review what Mr. Ross has presented to us, and then hopefully at our next meeting we can make a decision. So let's move down to section B. Our vice chair needs to resign, not from the board of commissioners, but as a vice chair. Commissioner Cummins has been a rock and has done an outstanding job serving in this position, but due to some personal obligations, he is needing to resign, which now leaves us in a position to appoint a vice chair to replace him. So do we have any nominations from the floor to nominate a vice chair?
Commissioner?
Yes.
I would.
I nominate Adam.
That's who I was going to nominate. So can I second that?
I will second that.
I nominate Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, if he's willing, then
all of your names are going on my list.
I'd be happy to be on your list, brother.
Same here.
Okay. Okay. So we have two motions on the floor from Commissioner Cole and Smith for Commissioner Futrell to be named as vice chair. So I think Commissioner Smith started out discussing the fact of making the motion, and then Commissioner Cole seconded. So, so we have a.
I can relinquish the motion. That's fine.
Will you? Okay. All right. So Commissioner Cole made the motion. We have a second.
Second.
I think we had about 4.
Yeah. No. Well,
Commissioner Ellis?
All the time. Okay, the motion carries.
All righty.
Congratulations to our new vice chair, Commissioner.
Did he accept that? Did he accept that?
He did.
Yeah,
He gave it thumbs
okay,
up.
all right. I just want to make sure. Okay, all right, good deal. How you gonna put
Kelly?
Yeah. Kelly, were you saying something?
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes. Thank you for
For
the
the
work.
hard work.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes. Okay, also, Commissioner Cummins served as the chair of policies and procedures. He is to remain on that committee. Am I correct, Commissioner Cummings? As a member?
That's correct.
Okay, but we need a chair for that committee. I have asked Commissioner Suzak, who is already on the committee, if she would be willing to replace Commissioner Cummings, and she's agreed to do so. So that's just an FYI that she will be assuming that role as chair of the Policies and Procedures Committee.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Rabbi is not here today, so I don't know if we have a report on agency social media enhancement. Ms. Fox, was that related to Commissioner Rabbi's offer during the last meeting?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Okay. So we'll just move past that because there's no action. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have our committee reports. Commissioner Smith, you want to bring us up to date on budget?
Brandon mentioned the audit. We're calling it audit. It's a, tell me the words again. Yeah, the RFP. He brought us up to date on the RFP, and I don't have anything to add to that, unless Brandon has something that he needs to add for us.
Well, I didn't go over the updated timeline.
The timeline, yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so let me pull it up. It's changed a couple times. So we're looking for it to be posted in 6 days, which would be April the 22nd. It's going to run on the e-procurement website for 2 weeks, ending May the 6th at 4:30 p.m. We'll evaluate the responses and hopefully have a contract in place by the end of May, starting June 1st. Now, these things can't cross the biennium, which ends June 30th, so we'll have to go ahead and go renew it right away, but we put in renewal language into the RFP, so that should be no problem.
Okay.
And I haven't checked since the meeting started.
Hey, Brandon, are you talking about the RFP for the audit? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, we're calling it Forensic Accounting Services.
Okay. All right.
If we call it an audit, some other things have to happen. That there's an hourly rate breakdown. Yeah, we're calling it Forensic Accounting Services. And there is a distinction there because audits are generally for a period of time, and this is going to be situational at the direction of the board. So it won't necessarily be looking at fiscal years, but specific situations. So, and I just checked, it has not been approved yet, but like I said, I'm hoping it will be approved today or any minute now.
We have one more change as it relates to committees. Commissioner Futrell has accepted the appointment as our vice chair, but due to his workload, which is tremendous, he is not able to continue to serve as the chair of the Personnel Committee. I serve on that committee and will be assuming that role as chair. It's just an FYI. there's not any additional information under to go over as it relates to new business, I'd like for us to go into closed session. And Brandon, if you can sort of help us to orchestrate that.
All right, I will move staff to the waiting room. And if you could just call me or type in chat when you're finished, so I will know. I have to remain in, but I'm gonna turn my speakers off, and I'm actually probably gonna walk into Cynthia's office. So I'm not a good lip reader anyways, so you don't have to worry about, okay.
Chair, from the beginning, Mr. Ross informed us that this would stay on YouTube unless we asked him to delete it.
Well, I'm going to pause the live stream and I'm going to pause the recording. Yeah, but you all do need to discuss that.
Discuss what?
Would you like me to delete this video from YouTube right after the meeting or leave it up until when?
Okay, I get that. Yeah, well, it's simple. Yeah,
I would take
yes
YouTube
and
down, Brandon.
I'm sorry.
I wouldn't run YouTube right now.
No, I'm gonna stop the live stream. Let me stop